Have you had some success before, but your pool of leads have dried up and you don't quite know what to do? If so, you're going to like today's episode where I talk to Nathan. Now, this is a hot seat. That's part of my online trainer mentorship. We work with people who are doing anywhere from $1,000 to $30,000 a month before they start with us, and we help them scale. In these hot seats, what I do is I go super deep with one at a time, and we talk about something on their mind or a problem that they're experiencing. In this case, Nathan works with golfers. And the issue that he's having is that he does a sensational job with golfers, but he's having a hard time attracting new ones. And the golfers that he does work with, some semi-pros and pros, kind of view him as their secret weapon behind the scenes, and they don't want to recommend him to others. So we have a really good conversation about how to get his next batch of clients and how to make sure his pool doesn't run dry again. I hope you really enjoy this conversation. So same type of thing, Nathan. If you can just really quickly tell us who it is to serve and what are we talking about today?
Yeah, I train golfers who are basically looking to bomb it by their buddies, increase some distance. That's kind of the biggest thing. All golfers, whether they say they want it or not, that's kind of the underlying theme. Reduce stiffness and pain so they can play 36 in a day, play back to back, especially for my older population, and improve body composition so they can look and feel damn good doing it. Main problem right now, I think, is I've had my first launch was really good, and I got a lot of competitive golfers who play in state AMs. And then my second and third launch weren't nearly as good. However, my post launch, this is my third now, is going half decent, and I noticed that my competitive golfers are coming back. So I don't know if something I said, my language. But I'm just thinking, do I need to I was talking to John, and I was kind of like, do I need to move into a richer pond, per se? That's kind of my issue.
Okay. What do you mean when you say move into a richer pond?
So I'm looking at, my best clients or the clients I love to work with, and yeah, they're competitive, and the money that they're willing to spend on golf and me, it's kind of like a no-brainer. They know it's a part of the game. They know they need to do it. I have some extra stuff I like to do, and that's just it's a bonus. So for them, they get it. For my clients who are, golfing on the weekends, maybe just not as competitive, they're like, oh, well, I'll just do P90X or some generic program type thing. I don't need you. And so that's kind of during those two launches that didn't go so well, that was kind of the type of person I was talking to in my DMs.
Okay. So this is good. We can go on this. Tell me about the best client you've ever worked with. If you could the client who you took a step back and you're like, oh shit, I wish everybody was like this. What was their name?
I got a bunch right now, but let's go Peter Cook. And so he's an Australian PGA player. I have a success story up on my feed for him. He basically was, he's also a golf pro. And so he's kind of at that cusp of do I continue trying to live my dream, or do I need to get a 9-to-5 and get back to teaching and support my family? Mm-hmm. And so through our enrollment calls, kind of chatting with them, I found out he never really trained for power and speed. And so he's already a really good golfer. And so I was really excited, okay, well, if you've never trained this side of it, I'm pretty confident I can get you, X amount of miles per hour. And sure enough, we did. And so now he's back, being competitive, and now the door is back open in terms of, he can probably squeeze in a year or two.
He was a pro golfer already.
Yeah.
But he had never done any actual strength training, mobility training or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, I know a fair bit about this market because it was the first program that I actually built. And so I know about the training. I know that basically any golfer who's never done strength training can put, give or take, 15 to 20 yards on their drive with an increase in thoracic mobility and flexibility and strength. The problem is they don't hit the damn ball straight anymore, but that's a job for swing coaches and stuff like that. Well, I mean, I never hit the ball straight. That's why I hate the game. But I do it like a slap shot. I just Happy Gilmore the thing. Okay. How did this person find you? What was his name again?
Peter Cook.
Peter. So how did Peter find you?
Through Instagram. I think for him it was just a hashtag or something that he kind of came across, started following me, hummed and hawed for a little bit, finally reached out. And actually, he was in between launches, so yeah.
Okay. And Peter Cook, I'm trying to find his Instagram. Does he
It's Cookie
have
Monster.
any kind of a Cook with an E? Does he have any sort of a fan base?
Um, he's not like super active on Instagram, but I mean, he'll post like PGA of Australia stuff, which obviously has a bigger following.
Mhm. I'm just wondering. Oh no, it's not him. Yeah, I can't find him really quick here.
Cookie
But
Monster is his handle. Cookey Monster.
that's hilarious. Say that again. What is it?
Cookie Monster, but it's Cookey.
Key monster. For some reason, my Instagram just turned to Russian, and I have no idea why. And so now I can't navigate it. It literally just like flipped over to Russian text. And so I don't know how to get anything. This makes me feel better when Quick Coach has issues because every single other system glitches like that all the time. I
Yeah, he's only
wonder
got
how much
30
deeper you
followers.
can go. I mean, knowing exactly what you just told me about this guy, it's like, okay, he's a pro golfer who has a bit of a chance to make some noise, but he's never done any strength training and he's losing his mojo. And this is kind of like a make or break moment for him. There's got to be a lot of guys like that.
Absolutely.
The issue, of course, is that, I mean, even PGA Tour golfers have no money. And so is that something that you've run into? Like even pro golfers are just, they just often don't have any money at all.
It's an expensive sport, but at the same time, they'll spend money on everything,
Yeah.
useless training aids, new clubs they don't need, things like that.
There was somebody we worked with in our mentorship very early on. He might have been in the first cohort, maybe the second. And he specialized in working with mixed martial art athletes. And the reason that I bring it up is that it was the same thing. These were like semi-pro or pro athletes, like mixed martial art athletes. I mean, you're talking like the top 5 or 10 make any money. Like everybody else is basically doesn't have enough money to even afford their gym fees, let alone a coach. But a lot of them had fan bases, like some of them smaller, but like very, very dedicated fan bases. And so what we did for him was we operationalized his program such that it was actually delivered by his team. And then there was a lot of automation involved. The program to work with the actual athletes themselves, which seems counterintuitive. It was actually less hands-on with the athlete so that we could offer it to them, so that he could offer it to them for very, very cheap, or in a lot of cases, actually free, in exchange for them promoting my coach. Because what then happened was that this person, MMA athletes, a lot of the time, fighters, a lot of the time had like very alpha types, investment banker types who have a lot of money, who follow the sport of fighting, who, this was my hypothesis and it was true, who want to brag to their buddies that they train with the same person as their favorite fighter. And so he created then a high-end program called Train Like a Fighter. Like that was the name, was Train Like a Fighter. And so instead of looking at the athletes that he worked with as saying, hey, these athletes are the people we're going to make the money from, looked at the athletes and said, I wonder whether we can work with these people so that we can say that we work with these people, so that folks who follow these people or admire these people that have tons of money and time and whatever, so that they can say, hey, I'm working with the same coach who works with whatever. It's probably pretty pretty straightforward to see where I'm going with this. But I wonder, because you told me about this Peter Cook golfer, I wonder whether the step for you to expand, and this is a question that I'll ask you, to expand your audience selectively is to try to, you could probably tell looking at pro or semi-pro golfers, you can be like, this guy's kind of on the cusp, or this lady's kind of on the cuff. I mean, female golf is like, LPGA is one of the few female sports that is almost as much marketing as the male side of it. And I worked with an LPGA golfer actually way back when. I've never told that story, funny enough. But yeah, I worked with an LPGA golfer. And can you go out and try to find these people and look at them and be like, I'm pretty sure they don't have a strength coach. And selectively go to these golfers who like are active on social media and reach out to them and say, hey, I worked with Peter Cook. Here's the improvements that he made with me. Look, what I'm trying to do is actually build a clientele of people who follow golf that have a lot of money. And I'd love to work with you so that you can broadcast that I'm working with you, in addition to I can share your story in a way to get clients. How does that make sense? How does that all sound?
Yeah, absolutely. I tried doing that a little bit with, enrollment calls with people who maybe were going to sign up. I'd offer them scholarships and basically did the exact same thing. Like, whatever that difference was, I'd ask them to, post monthly, weekly, whatever it is. That didn't work out so well with a couple that I've had, but I think my pitch around that wasn't too strong. And plus it was also kind of like my last resort type thing. So now going into that mindset, that might be a little bit easier to pitch.
Yeah. And if you reach out to them and you say, hey, look, here's the success. I mean, you could even do it contractually.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, are you going to enforce it? Probably not. But if they sign that they're going to do it, odds are they're going to do it. Versus just, hey, do me a solid. And then the other part of it is a lot of these golfers are from small towns, or they're kind of like local heroes in their small towns. Could you call up the reporters, wherever this Peter Cook is from? Could you call up reporters at local papers and be like, hey, I got a story for you. Here's how Peter Cook improved his game and ended up getting his pro card.
Right.
Like it's gonna take you doing that, and then they'll want to call up Peter. But versus, again, I mean, this is going back to the same theme, versus like, hey, how do I put out better content on social media? Like, I don't think that you should be the one really putting out content on social media. I think that you should have enough of a page that if people find you, it should showcase what you do. But you're working with semi-celebrities. I think it's kind of, and then, I mean, I feel like with these athletes, sometimes though, a bit of the issue is that like, you're kind of like their hidden secret and they don't want to share you.
It's exactly what I feel.
Which is super annoying.
Super annoying.
But I do think that it comes down to you going out of your, let me give you one example, actually, to leave you with. And then we'll move on to Chris. Gina Mauricio was an online trainer academy student who focused on runners and endurance athletes and marathon runners. And we knew that that was a good market for the online trainer academy, but we didn't have any like inroads in that market. And so Geraldine, who was our chief of content at the time, pitched Runner's World on an article about Gina. And I can send you the article. There's an article in Runner's World magazine. I think it was on their website, but there was like a very popular article about this amazing woman who does physical training for endurance athletes and marathon runners, and also about how most runners don't do strength training, and that's why they get hurt, and why strength training is so important. And it was about Gina. Gina was the hero. But it talked about how she did our program, and that's where she learned to build the business. But it was us who went to Runner's World. It was us that pitched the article, and it was me who paid Geraldine to write the article for Runner's World. That's what it takes, kind of. But you got to be like very focused in on whether that's your strategy or not, because you can't do too much of it. I hope that helps, man. I know it's a little bit frustrating when you work with athletes like this, for sure, because you're like the secret weapon behind the scenes. But there's nothing stopping you from going to local newspapers, or even like, if he has a good tournament and everybody's surprised, jump on it, pitch all of these publications and be like, hey, let me tell you about Peter's physical training program. You could do collabs on Instagram with the different golf networks and stuff.
Yeah, one of the things that you said, or two things that you said, previously in the last one, I think with Jeff, just reaching out to different, companies that are in my space. I know which companies cater to a higher end golfer, so I could definitely go that route. And then also with what Ren said yesterday, I think when you released that podcast, go to those pages, look at those comments, and then film a video and that kind of thing. So obviously I haven't done either one of those or, exhausted those yet. So I think that's kind of also my next play.
Even like, what is it, TPI Institute and them?
Yeah, that's my main
education. I got to think that I don't know much about them anymore, but back in the day, they can't be serving like questions and stuff like that well on their social accounts. Anyway, we got to move on. Thank you for this though.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
It's this type of like semi-pro athlete is a difficult nut to crack. And the best way that I've seen it done is that Fido example, where you actually use these people to generate business from folks who follow them, that have more money. Hey, John here. I hope that you really enjoyed this conversation with Nathan. It was a tough one. He's got a tough market, but I think he's going to be able to stand out and do great. And if you did enjoy this episode, I think you're also really going to love episode 27 of this podcast. The title of it is David Sells $5,000 Packages Without Social Media. Social media grind, it's pretty exhausting. Efforts are not rewarded often with much. And that's because a lot of the time what we're doing is we're working forward from the solution, whereas we should be working backwards from the problem. And the story that I tell that kind of volleys up the entire episode is a trainer named David who sells $5,000 packages, and he does not use social media at all. So we talk about how he does that. So in your podcast app, just go back, the Obvious Choice podcast. It's episode 27. Hope that you love it. Additionally, this conversation with Nathan was in my high-end business mentorship. If that's something you think you might be interested in, either now or in the future, go over to Instagram. I'm at It's Coach Goodman, and just send me a DM that just says mentor, and myself or my team will get back to you as soon as we can.